Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Maya, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming in. We're here in Nashville, and I'm at a songwriters retreat, and you live here, and I'm a big fan, and I'm like, hey, do you have time for an interview? And you were kind enough to do this, so I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, tell me something good about your week.
Let's see. We just got a new hot water heater.
That's big.
Yeah, it is very big, and my boyfriend and I put it in ourselves.
Okay.
So it was kind of fun because we had to figure out how to it's like really big. We had to figure out how to get it up to the 16 inches or whatever off the ground. And he was like, people built the pyramids. We can figure this out. We were putting one piece of wood underneath it and then tilting it this way and then another piece of wood this way and tilting it this way. It was actually really fun.
All right. That's Ethan?
Ethan.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So is he pretty handy or?
He's extremely handy.
Oh, that's helpful.
He did most of the actual handy stuff. I just did the kind of motivation and a little bit of problem solving when he was starting to get tired.
All right. All right. Well, that's big. Yeah. Hot water heaters aren't easy. So
I'm just freshly aware of a hot shower and how nice that is. So I would just say it's a really good part of my week.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds great. So obviously we have a lot to talk about. I just have one sort of icebreaker question, if you don't mind. What's the most annoying drink that you've ever had to make at Starbucks?
I really never liked making the shaken espressos.
Okay, why is that?
I don't know. It's just a lot of steps. I think people just want this because it has a long name and it sounds nice, but it's kind of like most things are the same ingredients, just in a different order. And
okay.
And I think when I would get in a dark place about it every once in a while I'd be like, gosh, they're just having the same thing. It's just taking me 10 minutes longer to make it, or not 10 minutes, but
right.
Yeah. But my favorite thing to make was the ones where you put the little sprinkly thing on top, so a little bit of cinnamon.
You decorate it a little bit.
Yeah, but then you just put the lid on it and you hand it out anyway, and nobody sees it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks for that. I guess a common misconception. So I'm not a musician at all. I don't play. I don't sing. I'm just a fan, and a lot of us are like, oh, Maya toured the world, done all these things, and you've got a job. Sometimes it's at, Starbucks, right? So has that always been the case? Do you think that'll always be the case, or I'm just curious. You got to pay the bills,
Totally.
What does that look like?
So I'm not there anymore, but I worked at 2 different Starbucks in Nashville,
mm-hmm.
and it's very much the case for so many musicians here. Working at cafes and bars and restaurants for years and years and years. And I think it's always kind of been the case for artists to do other things to figure it out. Right now, it kind of feels like a new job still. I'm producing records for people, so it's I'm actually getting paid.
Okay, that's good.
Instead of paying to do things.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that, and that's been going on for the last year and a half, 2 years now, and they just kind of the projects keep coming in. So every time I have a gap of time from touring where I would be okay, where's the dog sitting and babysitting and barista jobs or what am I going to do now? I have those projects on my plate. And so that's become, it's also a service job.
Okay.
I'm serving an artist in helping them make their thing. And so in a lot of ways it's not that different. But what I do like about, actually I miss working at Starbucks sometimes because of the monotony of you can be like doing something like putting, egg bites in the oven and taking them out and just doing that for like 2 hours, and you can actually like think about a lot of stuff. But when I'm listening to like an artist's song and trying to figure out like what kind of bass tone I want to add to it, it's like a very different like I can't really be like thinking about something else at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just way more of a focused kind of job now that I'm doing now, and as far as when I'm not doing my own music.
Okay.
So in some ways I really like those jobs where you're just doing something physical and monotonous, because you can kind of like meditate.
So growing up, obviously a very musical family, was it always assumed either by yourself or your parents or your siblings that you'd be doing music as a career? Or did you ever have a point where you had to kind of like make that decision, or was it just sort of like it was always going to be?
I think it was like very much the opposite. Like I don't know if it's pretty recently I feel like it's kind of become accepted that I'm doing this as a career.
Okay.
Not by my parents, really. My parents were never really, they didn't seem that worried about it. Like, I feel like I kind of escaped into stumbling into doing music as a career, because they were still kind of distracted with my younger siblings. They were like going to my brother's basketball games in high school and stuff, and like not too worried that I had just quit college and like was just traveling around in a band, and they didn't seem too concerned about it. Also, my dad didn't go to college until he was like, he went to architecture school when he was like 25 or 26.
Oh, cool.
And so he kind of always had this value that like, it's cool, like you go to school when you know what you want to learn. Like you don't have to go when you're 18 and just, not know what you want to study. Like when he went to college, he knew that he wanted to be an architect, and he chose to go. So I always kind of thought, well, maybe I'll go back at some point and be like, now I'm going to be a physical therapist or something.
I thought it was
like
HR, actually.
That's the other one. Those are
one.
the two.
Okay.
Those are the two.
So funny. But didn't you just get
because I'm really into like benefits and taking care of employees.
I guess. Didn't you just get a degree in Spanish or something too?
I'm 2 classes away.
You're 2 classes away. Okay, so you're close.
I'm almost a college graduate. I'm 34.
It's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. Well, so back to the HR and the physical therapy thing. This is just me, as a fan.
Yeah.
The world needs your art, right? And so, like, for me, I'm in corporate world. No disrespect to the people that I know that work in human resources. You have a higher value to the world than working out insurance claims and performance management systems.
I think it's probably like the question with like, did I grow up with the expectation that I was going to be a musician, or like it was. I didn't know anybody that did this when I was a kid or a teenager. Like I didn't see this as a path. I wasn't like writing songs for long enough to even know that was a thing that you could do. Like it was all kind of discovered as I was starting to become an adult. Yeah. And like my youngest sister, she plays for Noah Kahan.
Yeah.
Now. Like
that's
she
awesome.
just got this job playing
amazing.
in his band within the last year. And I feel like I finally feel like this wave of relief that like some of the people who maybe have always kind of questioned our family, like, but what, like really, like what are your kids doing? Like to my parents,
oh my gosh.
I kind of feel this wave of relief from my parents that like, cause no one, I know you appreciate my music, and there's plenty of,
pockets
of people who
Big
appreciate
pockets.
it, but it's not something that's ever going to look like mainstream, like, I understand what they're doing. But because I think, my sister now is playing in Madison Square Garden sometimes, or like Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. So I feel like my parents kind of, I don't know if they feel this. I haven't asked them about it, specifically, but I think there are like some of those questions kind of I've felt for me have like kind of fallen away. Like people are like, okay, maybe they are figuring out how to make a living in music somehow. And it's just interesting because it's this perception. Like where I'm from, it's just not.
Right.
That's just not like, you go into healthcare or you go into like teaching.
Sure.
It's just not.
The music industry in Lancaster isn't a thing. Right?
There's some more venues now, like a lot more stuff going on now than when I was growing up there.
Yeah.
But music was always something I did for, for enrichment, like for my own joy, and I loved the challenge of like I was playing classical violin in high school, and I loved being a part of an ensemble, and like just that you could get on a stage with 100 other people and make this. Like I was like, it's like we're in Jurassic Park. We're making the sound of Jurassic Park. You get to like play the soundtrack or something, and it was just an unbelievable feeling. But I wasn't thinking about like how do I translate this to a career, because I didn't really want to do classical music. Didn't really want to play in an orchestra. So it's taken me some time to figure out, how to, I don't know what to do with my with my ideas.
Well, you make songs. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do now.
Because it's important. It's important.
But it's still taken me like 10 years to catch up and accept that that's what I do.
Well, you mentioned your sister with Noah and the big venues. I mean, you've had the opportunity to play World Cafe, right? Mountain Stage a few times.
Totally.
I mean, those aren't just small little things.
Totally.
So yeah, what was that like? And like, did you understand the significance of that at the time? Were you nervous?
I think that there's, when I was in the Stray Birds, which was the first band I was in, we toured for like 7 years, and there were some moments of reaching these bigger stages that were just like very surreal.
Yeah.
Like, wow, there's like a couple thousand people out there or something, or even playing for 100 people, but not in your hometown, was like, oh my, like where did these people come from? And I remember we played in Denmark at the Tønder Festival, and it's an incredible festival, and there were some really surreal, beautiful moments of just feeling like out of body. Like, how did I get here? Cambridge Folk Festival in England.
Oh man.
It was totally surreal, and like people knowing the songs, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I got to see Sturgill Simpson at the festival in Denmark, and then like 2 years later, I got to serve him in the drive-thru at Starbucks.
That's
I was
amazing.
like, "You're Sturgill, aren't you? I like your music. Here's your green tea latte or whatever."
He didn't order the annoying one, did he?
No, he didn't.
Okay,
He didn't
good.
get a shaken espresso.
Okay, good. All right. You mentioned the Stray Birds. I'm not going to ask a lot about that, other than the fact that a comment. When you think about Americana music, that that band will have an important place in the history of Americana. Like, you understand that, right?
I mean, I think it's hard to have perspective when you're in it, and like, for me, I didn't even know we didn't know what the word Americana was when we started that band in 2010 or 2011 or whatever,
Yeah.
so, but I do know that, there's like I'm already meeting like a generation of folks younger than me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we play Dreamin' Blue at our jams." I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool."
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So
What's been more fulfilling? You mentioned the sort of the desire to play in an ensemble and the joy that you get out of that or the solo journey that you've started a few years ago. Are they just different?
the solo thing is such a misnomer, I think, because it's been the most collaborative era of my creative life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because at every turn I can pivot and collaborate with these people here, or I can it's giving me agency to say, okay, I need to stop the tour right here so that I can produce this record for this person, or now I'm gonna co-write with these people, or I'm gonna have this special guest on my record. I'm gonna take these people on the road with me. I want to do this one solo. I'm just gonna go out by myself. now I'm going to play with these instrumentalists. It's all fluid. It's so with the band where the Stray Birds, where it was 3 people every time, the same 3 people getting on stage, and it was like a more specific sound. And I think for me it was scary to like lean into something that was not specific, like sound wise, because it's I think genres are like kind of comforting if you know, to at least be like, okay, it's within this. But as I've kind of leaned more and more into like the idea of just I'm a singer-songwriter, and that can live in the Americana world, that can live in the folk world, that can live in the rock world. That's whenever I'm in Europe, I'm country music. That's all I am.
Yeah, that's funny.
So it just depends.
Okay. So we'll get to the new album, The Only Moment. I do have a question about Violet Light. So I think that was a pretty long process during COVID, right? I was thinking about that. As awful as COVID was for so many different reasons, imagine the art that was sort of created during that time that we probably would have never heard or seen. You know, it's pretty wild what that unleashed from a creative perspective, right? Totally.
I mean, I had just started taking classes, going back to school, and that was that point where I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was so burned out from music. So like, had COVID not happened, I would probably be like finishing physical therapy school right now or something.
2 classes away. Right?
Yeah, I'd be 2 classes away from that. But now I feel like it gave me a path to almost like it's like a chair that it was like I only had 1 leg or something, or 2 legs before, and I have like more legs to stand on because I feel more balanced in what I can give and receive in music. Like I feel so much more confident in studios, and when I'm like, I was able to play my own music before, but then writing with other people, that was kind of a growing thing, and then producing for other people has become a thing now because of what I learned in COVID.
Okay.
Like being able to slow the process down for a year and a half and think about bass tone and drum tone and the parts that I could imagine, and that really just changed everything in like how I could balance my life.
Okay.
So I guess it's just a human thing where we kind of look back on things that were really hard and they get glazed over anyway, and we're like, oh wow, it was really good. So in this moment I'm like, that was a really it was a really, really fruitful time, even though I have a lot of sadness about the distance I was from my family, just physically, like living here, and my family, some family members in Pennsylvania at the time who've now passed, and so I have a lot of sadness about other parts of it, but that part, the creative part, was really good.
Yeah, it's amazing how our brains sort of black everything out, or not everything, but a lot of the stuff as time passes, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so the Violet Light, and then now The Only Moment, I guess what's the big distinction in your mind in terms of the process or the outcome of the music between those 2 albums?
So Violet Light was a collection of songs that it all started with me playing guitar, or in some cases I guess banjo, totally alone, solo, just me playing and singing in our basement studio. Ethan, my partner, engineering, and he had sort of built this studio slowly, and it got nicer and nicer throughout the process. And so I would kind of lay down that first bit, the first track, and then we would add things. Okay. And so we were able to send parts to people all around the world, really, like friends who were even like living in different countries or from different places and living across the United States. And just some people would stop by our house and would add a harmony vocal or something, but it was very pieced together like that, like layer upon layer upon layer over time. And that's part of what allowed me to kind of learn the process and really slow it down. Yeah. And then coming out of that, I felt really excited about recording. And I thought I want to try to produce my own record, I wanted to play live with a band,
yeah.
and I wanted to go into a studio and just kind of just play the songs and have it go down way more quickly. And so, like a couple days after we finished Violet Light, we went into a studio and started making The Only Moment. So we started The Only Moment in 2021.
Okay.
So years
wow.
ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We started it in June of 2021, 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday at this studio that my friend Alex Wilder works at, and he has access to it on the weekends. So
nice.
booked the weekend and went in there, and then we did one more day I think in July or August of that summer, and then it kind of simmered, and so most of what you hear on The Only Moment was played live by a band in the summer of 2021.
Okay.
And then there's
wow.
these subtle layers of, like, I played a lot of synth on it, just these like layers that kind of, I think, to my ear, just were little layers and things to sweeten up things and
Okay.
pull things together sonically. And then I added a string part. We added my friend Phoebe Hunt as a harmony vocalist. So that happened later. She wasn't there in the original tracking sessions, but she'd come in over time and be like, okay, now let's have you sing harmonies on this song. Okay, moving on. Now let's have you sing harmonies on this song. And
Yeah.
we did that. That took 2 years of just kind of coming in a day here, a day there.
Okay.
Finding time when we were both in town. And so it was kind of a combination of, all playing in one room together, and then a few layers here and there of overdubs. But it was patient in the same way that Violet Light was very patient. And The Only Moment was very patient. And then in the midst of The Only Moment, I recorded the Infinite EP, which was like, we did it in one day.
Oh, okay.
The whole entire thing.
Okay.
Like, it was a marathon session. We were there until late in the night. But that was it. It was like, okay, and now we're going to release it. And so that happened. I think I was like feeling myself so far to one side of kind of simmering projects. And I was like, okay, let me just kick something out the door. And so none of it makes sense. When you see the releases all lined up chronologically,
Yeah.
it's like the idea of chronologically is very loose, because
It's not linear.
it's not linear.
Yeah.
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 But that's okay.
Okay. No, that's good. So can I ask you about a song on the new album?
Sure.
A lot of great songs. The one that I don't know if track order ever matters, when you put that together. But Ribbon is the last one on the album. That, to me, that's the one that I keep playing, and I don't know.
Cool.
Not that I need to know what the context is, but I'm going to ask you. But like every time I listen to it, I feel like there's a different meaning that you could apply. I guess could you explain the background of that, and in your mind, what was the context?
That one I was probably written in 2019 or 2018. I don't know. I myself have been through so many new interpretations of it. Like, I don't know. Some songs I have a very, very clear memory, and I know I was thinking about this situation or this person. I don't know.
That's
and
all right.
I don't think it matters to me anymore.
It doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter.
But it is crazy. Like, I truly feel that every song I've written, I could never write it again.
Okay.
Like, because it's like, it was only like the collision of the way I was feeling and what I was observing at that moment in time, and then it comes out.
Okay.
And
I
don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's haunting. It's sweet. It's melancholy. It's hopeful. I don't know. Yeah.
I do think that one has the groove, like the way the drums feel on it. That's all Dom Billett. That was his kind of design and like his suggestion in the studio. I definitely remember that, and that's what really made it feel. I think that I don't know that I ever would have that the song itself would have like had that feeling of
Right.
all those ways that you could feel about it without the exact kind of gentle rock band treatment that it has. because it started out, I do know it started out much more like a kind of almost that you if you heard it in like a song circle or something, you'd assume it would be kind of more of an acoustic band.
Okay.
Maybe playing it or something like that. Definitely not like an electric guitar and Wurlitzer and drums and electric bass. So I do think that's kind of been a cool transformation.
Okay. So you're about to go on tour for I don't know how many dates specifically, but it's dozens. It feels like. What's a good outcome for you out of that tour?
To not want to quit touring a band.
Okay.
Yeah. No, a good outcome. It actually is for me to just to set myself up to feel present for every show.
How hard is that, by the way?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's so much out of my control. There's so much that's unknown, like that could happen, that could come up, along the way. But I think like I've memorized the calendar. Like I sit and I do all of the tour logistics and the tour management and stuff. So I have a booking agent. So someone who's I'm talking with to put the dates together and contract it with all the venues and stuff. But I actually just like sit with the calendar and I'm thinking like, okay, like what's it going to, now picture myself in Chicago on this day.
Right.
Do I want to be in an Airbnb? Do I want to have will it be important to have a kitchen that day? Would it be better if we were in hotels and the band got a chance to feel a little more anonymous? Do we want to not have a common space living room? I am.
That's a lot of planning.
Extremely like a little bit of a freak. And just trying to like in that way, trying to kind of predict. But I have been on tour so many times that I kind of can feel like where things are where people are gonna start to feel a little bristly and need a little more personal space. Sure. And where I might need to like sort of step away and be like, guys, I just kind of need to be in my own zone for a couple hours and take a walk by myself or rent a bike and kind of ride around. And
does it help to when you put the set list together, does it help to shake it up a little bit to make sure that each show feels a little bit different? Or
I started last fall. I started just using a song bank instead of a set list.
Okay.
And so it's totally different every night.
Yeah, that's good.
Just kind of have the 20 songs written down that we might play.
Oh, good.
And then that's one of the things in my goal of staying present for every show is to be able to like read the room and see what's happening and take in like the energy of people, and then we can pivot right there in that moment and be like, okay, actually let's do this thing now. Oh, now let's have just Joel and I play a song. Let's bring things like really, really small. So
you're calling audibles as they say in football all the time.
Yeah. And it's more fun.
Yeah.
For me, because it's a small scale what I'm doing. We don't have somebody like coordinating like a light show or something. Like it doesn't. It can be
right.
That is the light show kind of is the playing with the space on the stage and playing with the energy and the volume and. Okay, now we're going to really rock out. Okay, now we're going to be really small. Kind of just those kinds of things.
Okay. So you're a few years into the solo stuff, which, again, is a misnomer, as you described, which is a great way to put it. Where are you at as an artist today, and where do you want to be?
Where I'm at today is that I get tired of all the hats that I wear. Yeah. And because I'm really carefully adding people to my team and I really, really love to be an independent artist. I'm really happy to not be on a label. I'm like that. I'm my own label. But I do get tired of the momentum of switching the hats sometimes, and I get like the transition periods make me nervous of like going from like thinking through the tour and being the tour manager in my head, and booking all the logistics and the flights. And I mean, if you open up like the app in my phone for Southwest, it's just like an entire page of flights, and then having to switch over and like think about the creative stuff and what I really want to do. I get nervous about like sort of becoming a musician again, like going out there and being able to sink into the music. Yeah. But when I do get to be on stage and be playing, I'm like, this is it. This is the thing. Like I don't want to just have a desk job in music admin, which is most of my job right now. This summer is mostly admin. Like that's why I was able to get right back to you and be like, let's do this podcast, because I'm just at home right now. Yeah. So
well, there's a risk too, probably, that you probably feel like you're kind of maybe half-assing things that are very important, and you might miss it, right?
Totally. So I think that is really challenging for me, is that I don't have all the help that I would like, but I don't know. It's difficult to find the right kind of the right compatibility and the right timing of bringing people in, and or how to, because it's like I'm running like a tiny taco truck.
Well, it's a business.
It's a business.
100%.
But it's like, okay, do I need somebody like a separate person to like do this whole thing as their whole job, or like as part? Do I need to hire the person who does that for their company and does just someone to do the tour accounting, or like things like that. Yeah. So I think those things are really hard, and I think for a long time musicians have been kind of told like hand all that to other people, and like you don't want to be burdened with those things. Yeah. But for me, I'm like, but do we say that to everyone who like runs a business? Like you want to open up a taco shop and they're like, hand everything to a management company, hand everything to like it's just a different thing. So I love learning the ropes of all these different things, and I feel like when I have so much compassion and respect for my booking agent, because I have done a worse job at her job. Like she's doing a great job,
You've been in her shoes.
I've been in her shoes, and she's so much better than I am, and so much more organized, and I have so much respect for her, and so I really love that. It's very interesting to me to like be able to see all the gears turning, and see what it takes, and know what it takes, and appreciate what it takes. Yeah. And then but that is why that is the biggest challenge for me then, to get on stage and be like, okay, now I get to be fully present. I've earned being an artist, amazing, and it's, I think another challenge is for where I'm at right now is when it's challenging to me when I get feedback from people or like questions like, wow, it looks like you have a really nice summer. Like you have so many weeks off. Yeah. And I think it's really challenging to hear that, because I took about 4 days off over the 4th of July. But other than that, like I'm like any other person, and I'm working every day.
You're hustling
in some way.
You're hustling,
you know? And so I think it's challenging that as if the tour is the hardest part, but it's like the tour, when I get to the tour, I'm like, yes! Oh my gosh, this is really hard, but like I get to play music now. Okay. I have worked so hard for all these pieces to align. Yeah. We have been strategizing for how to get me from here to here for months, and we figured it out, and now we're going to do this. And the t-shirts have been ordered, and the things have been shipped to the right places, and
importing, exporting,
all these behind the scenes things. So I think that's challenging. Like where I'd like to be is that some of that stuff is a little more automated or smoother, or I have like some really key people and some really key roles helping me with some things.
Okay. That makes sense. So you mentioned you being on the stage is sort of your happy place. I heard an interview where you were talking about the physicality of things, the mental state, emotions, and like, tensing up a little bit and learning how to hold the guitar differently, and which is, again, you've grown up playing music, lots of different instruments, musical family, Mountain Stage, World Cafe, Stray Birds, like all these things. Like, it's, for me as a fan, it's shocking to hear that would be a challenge for you at some point. I guess tell me, what did it take to realize that, and how have you kind of navigated that?
I think it was part of the transition of being in a band to this idea of being solo.
Okay.
And I really struggled with, like, for a while I really struggled with thinking that people were, like, I think I had inflated the importance, like you're saying, like the Stray Birds are going to be important in Americana music, and that's like its own I wasn't thinking in that way. It was more like I had inflated the importance of that band in my own life, and I had inflated this idea that some of those fans were angry that we didn't exist anymore, or angry at me, because I was the only one who kind of continued on. Like, I had so many songs inside of me, and I just kept going. And I started releasing solo records, and I kind of didn't look back. But I did look back in the same way. I was like, I would be playing my new songs, but feeling like, because the Stray Birds was such a controlled environment, it was so
comfortable, probably, right?
It was comfortable in some ways, and it was also extremely uncomfortable in other ways. And I think that really, there was this really disturbing balance for me in, like, being on stage in that band and being in the day-to-day and the interpersonal dynamic of that band. It was disturbing how comfortable I was with the specific kind of discomfort that it required of me in myself and in what I was giving, and that I kind of couldn't be creative outside of that. It was like a very it was a very controlled space and a very, like, real wall kind of, like, you can't play outside of this band, like that kind of an atmosphere, an attitude. And I think shaking that off, was like, I still was in that. Like, I would get on stage and it would just be like, you can't do this. Like, you can't be you ruined something. It doesn't matter. Like it was in some ways I was more comfortable than ever. It's like I'd swapped places.
Oh my
like
gosh.
My spirit.
It's inverse, yeah.
My spirit was like so comfortable in my new songs, where my spirit had just been like disembodied, in the old thing. But now I'm on stage and I'm like, physically, I'm leading. I never saw myself as the front person. I've seen reviews. I've seen like articles and stuff that have described me as the lead singer of the Stray Birds, and I never, ever saw myself that way. So when I suddenly, for the first time in my perception, was the lead singer, or was like leading the band, it's like I could feel this void on like either side of my body, like, but who's got my back up here? Even if there were other people on stage, it was like people were coming to see me, and my name was on the thing, and it, like, I had gotten so comfortable being on stage in the context of a band, and then it just felt so different. And like from the outside, like when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, it's all in your head, like, but that there had been like a really big switch in that comfort, discomfort kind of.
Well, it's kind of like a relationship, right? Like it's comfortable, but then if your spirit's like boxed in, it's not the right place to be, right?
Yeah. And now I feel like, so I played Union Transfer in Philadelphia. Great venue. I was opening for the Wood Brothers in October 2023. Duo, just one other person on stage with me, Joel Timmons, who tours with me a lot as my guitar player, and my former bandmate Charlie, who played bass in the Stray Birds, was in the audience in October 2023. And in like February 2018 or January 2018, like the last tour the Stray Birds ever did, we played at Union Transfer, opening for the Wood Brothers.
Oh, no way.
So I was like on the same physical stage,
Yeah.
the same room, everything. And Joel and I it was like this flowing, fluid, joyful show. And it was so amazing. It's like that Charlie was there, and he's been so supportive all these years. And like after the show, and he was his feedback of just like, wow, like you guys are, it's like it was just so amazing to see the difference. And like, because he was like, I know what we felt like on this. I know what we felt like on this stage 6 years ago or whatever. And like, I'm really happy for you.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and it was just
how good did that make you feel?
So good.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while there's
that's
those
great.
moments where it's kind of like the two things like intersect, the two layers of time. And then I'm like, I've come a long way. Like this is, and I'm on the right path for myself now. Like I don't want to go back to that. I do know that felt comfortable and uncomfortable, and it was the bad kind of combination. And this was worth all the discomfort of like all the questions of like why I had to leave or what was going, or why I play with electric guitars and drums now, or why I don't, all the different
hopefully
things. It was worth it.
Well, hopefully in those moments where you're thinking about physical therapy and HR, you go back to that, which is like, okay, this is where I need to be, right?
Totally. And really, I'm like, I just kind of want to do HR better for my own for my own music. I just wish I could give healthcare to the people in my band. I just wish I could. And I just need to figure out like the right stretch after a long drive. I need to like work on my hamstrings and
more self-care.
I think I'm like, my interests are like telling me things. Maybe I could just apply those things to this.
That's good. All right. Well, so last questions, I guess. At this stage, you're 34, been through a lot. You're on a great trajectory right now. What are you most curious about today?
Most curious about, I've been really, really curious about the idea of rest. And I found my way to this random audiobook. I really love finding random audiobooks on Spotify. It's something called like Sabbath as Resistance. And this idea of taking time to be, like taking time to really, really like stop the work and stop the living in the economic water that we're all swimming in, and just being in a space of presence and community with people in some way. And we've been starting to have these weekly music get-togethers at our house here, and just like having people come, and sometimes it lasts 3 hours. One time someone stayed for 11 hours. Our friend Lily that we hadn't seen for a long time. And so just playing, like going around the circle and sharing songs and talking about like why we love this song and where we learned it from, and like we kind of have this loose rule, like put the phones away, don't read lyrics off the phone, like just try. I don't know, I'm really curious kind of about like it feels like reaching back in a way, like reaching back to like kind of like let's make sure we're setting time apart for like not forward motion, not like striving, and not gaining anything in a material way. Or not
pursuing something.
Yeah, and just like letting that all fall away and just like being with other humans. And like it doesn't matter who is on tour right now or who just put a record out or who like there was one of our friends, like she had a baby like 2 years ago and she hasn't gotten a chance to like play lots of shows lately. And it was like her 2-year-old was there like playing harmonica like as part of this jam. And I was like, this is and I, you know, no one's like taking videos or anything. Like it's not for social media. It's like this is like our space of rest and rejuvenation and like being a part of the musical community I do have here in Nashville, but like making the space for that. So I'm really curious to see like how that grows in the next like year. And basically like if we can keep it up, we've done it 3 weeks in a row now. We'll be out of town this weekend, so we're doing it again the following weekend, and then I might be able to do it like once a month through the fall, even like
even touring.
Even with touring, like I'm home for these pockets of time, and it's like maybe we could do it once a month, and then in the winter hopefully every Sunday. But just things like that I'm really curious about. Making more of a commitment to just making the space and you know, build it and they will come kind of thing. But it's not for anything external. It's not
just fulfillment.
It's just for the community and nourishment. And I don't feel like I have enough of that. I'm inspired to do that because we've been calling it gospel hour because my dad does this with his friend Lefty, and they'll just get together for like an hour on Sundays and play songs, and then they'll be like, all right, my dad's like, I gotta go work on this thing, and Lefty's like, I gotta get home to this thing, but they've spent an hour playing songs together and singing. And I'm like, gosh, the amount of weeks that go by where I don't spend an hour, and even an hour in a month, just playing songs for fun with my friends is embarrassing. And I want to change that. And so I'm working on it.
Okay. Great answer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck on the tour.
Thanks.
Really appreciate your time. It was an honor. What you do is important.
Thank you.
I want you to know that. All right.
Thanks.
So don't go into HR.
No, just got to fine tune some things in Maya De Vitry company.
That's right. Anyway, I appreciate it. I would love it if you could play a song or two.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah. I'll get the guitar out.
All right. Thanks, Maya.
Sure.
All right.
Afraid to fall apart. Well, the tears rise up around me if I stay. Nothing ends with a ribbon around it. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Nothing ends with a ribbon around it. Yes, I know. There's a ladder if we find it, but we likely never will. There's water at the bottom, it trickles down the rungs, dripping to the tune of just enough to pay the bills. Money fills canyons in the pockets of a few. That's the way it flows in the red, white, and blue. While every mile of railroad all across the land is a long life of labor for a working man. It would surely be a wonder for a man to build alone all the rails and steel, dig the oil that he owns. But the riches of the world are carried all along on the back of every man who works to the bone. Money fills canyons in the pockets of a few. That's the way it flows in the red, white, and blue. While every mile of railroad all across the land is a long life of labor for a working man. As we try to make the mortgage, the bank gets the news of a check from the Capitol. It's all theirs to use. Yes, it's always you and me and Uncle Sam pitching in. They just don't call them handouts when they're all wearing suits. Money fills canyons in the pockets of a few. That's the way it flows